Moving on to some recruiting news. I mean, the recruiting for Florida right now, it seems really, really exciting. And something that I prefaced before the cast, and Allie made a good point. I'll pass it to you in just a minute, Allie. It seems like we're just guys are coming in by the busloads, just visiting every weekend. And my Twitter was exploding. Like, I'll be in Gainesville Saturday. I'll be in Gainesville Saturday. I'll be in Gainesville Saturday. Just got an offer from Florida. These are 2024 guys and top tier guys. And obviously, DJ's recruiting like a beast, which we'll get into in just a minute. But I was like, where? It feels, again, a lot more than last year. What is the transition from last year to this year, and why do we think the volume of just visits have increased tremendously?
Well, I mean, I think as we talked about beforehand, a lot of lines in the water. You don't know who's going to pop, but you want to be in the conversation for everybody. And I think last year, Florida was maybe in the conversation top 10 or even maybe top 5 for some of these guys. But then when it goes down to their commitment ceremony and there's 3 hats on the table, Florida's not one of them, right? And I think that they've kind of made that step to where they are going to be one of those 3 hats on the table for a lot of guys. And the next step from there, obviously, is beating head to head the Alabamas, the Georgias, guys like that. You do have to win battles in state. I think you've got to win head to heads with Florida State and Miami. You've got to keep guys here. But what we were talking about before the show is that there is some value in coming in second place now in recruiting. And in the past, that was not something that existed. But because people are moving around so much in the transfer portal, it's important to make really good relationships and strong impressions on guys who won't pick you first, right, out of high school. Because if they are unhappy, if they sit the bench where they thought they were going to play, if a new coach comes in and they don't fit the scheme anymore, they're going to remember the relationship that they created at Florida and go back to that when they do enter the portal. So it's, you referenced a dating show when we were talking before. It's the same kind of concept, right? Like, you don't want to burn any bridges. You want all of these relationships to be kind of nurtured because you never know when they're going to come back into play.
Yeah, I compared it to Love is Blind. I appreciate you not completely embarrassing me there, but it's like, Love is Blind. You have multiple relationships locked up, and if one falls short, you're able to just hop into the room and go, "Hey, babe, what's up?" and keep it moving. So that's a solid point. Again, we saw with Texas A&M how many of those top recruits obviously went to A&M, and the next year they're in the portal. So it's like, who was flirting with me all the way up until they could? That's who they're going to remember the most coming back into the portal. Now, will that team still won't be having interest in them? Who knows? But it's at least having that line in the water for them, so you can go back to that relationship pretty easily than if you weren't going after them. So I love it. And I think, again, it just by elimination, right? The more people that you go after, the more chances your hat lands on the table, and then eventually more of those hats will end up on those kids' head. And here we are. I will say too, though, there's still some top guys who were not even on their top 12, top 15, top 10. And I used to kind of get worked up about it, but because if you got to kind of look and see where we are landing, it feels like, hey, we are being a little bit of picky, right? And not picky, but we're being precise on who we're going after. Hey, this character, where they're from, this is going to work with our scheme. It is refreshing to see that we're not just, again, also not just being kind of like a whore in a sense, just being on everybody's table too. It feels very methodical. Dave, your thoughts on that?
Yeah, and you got to be really careful with NIL. You saw the class that Miami raked in last year. Obviously, it was all NIL. You could just tell. You want to be careful with that. I mean, are those kids just coming to your school for the money, or do they really want to play at your school, said school, whatever? You got to be careful with that. But I also like the approach that Billy Napier and the staff are taking. They're offering, like you said, they're putting as many lines as they can out there. And you go back to the transfer portal comment. You go back to the DeMarcus Bowman where he picked Clemson and then he transferred to Florida. Of course, Dan Mullen was here when that happened, but still, I mean, Florida was the second choice. He transferred to Florida, and we brought up Lorenzo Lingard before the show as well. It is good to have a hat on the table sometimes, and even if you don't get that said person, if they don't have the time that they thought they would at that school, maybe that's that second stop. I mean, with the way the transfer portal is, I mean, you can it's still okay to be upset not landing a recruit, but it doesn't mean that you can't land them later, right? But you never want to hold on to that hope. You always want to go for the first guy that you want. And I also think that they're doing a phenomenal job of, taking the guys that maybe are like 3 stars or not exactly like ranked really high yet, because it's beginning of a
Yes.
cycle, right? They're going through a good evaluation process here. Like Josiah Davis, I mean, he was 3-star guy. He's ranked 480th in the nation, but I've listened to the 24/7 Sports podcast. What was it, a couple of days ago, and they said that they expect him to climb into the top 247 with just his skill set and all that. So, like I said, even if you take a kid that's maybe even ranked in the 3-star range, especially in March, you never know what he's going to end up at. I mean, look at Jakeem Jackson. I mean, this kid was ranked 500th when the cycle started, and now he's a top 50 player. I mean, I think the evaluation process is more of what I'm more intrigued by what Billy Napier and the staff has done. Of course, they missed out on some kids, obviously, against Miami and some other schools, but they really got in kids that were really skilled, and obviously some of them haven't even come to campus yet. They're going to come in either summer A, summer B, but I kind of like it, man. I like the slow, methodical. We're not gonna get into a bidding war kind of approach. I like that a lot better because you're taking a more careful approach, getting a kid that actually wants to come to your school. And when you get a kid that wants to come to your school, he's going to want to play for your football team and not just say, "Hey, I want more NIL money." Which this is the day and age we're living in anyway.
Well, and that's the hardest part about recruiting right now, right? Is that you are trying to figure out everybody's intentions. 10 years ago, 15 years ago, you knew which guys wanted to play for your universities. And if you had ulterior motives for going to a school, it was generally, I don't know that I love the school, but I think it's my fastest route to the NFL, which at least that guy's still going to go hard, perform well, whatever, because of the end result that he is looking for. We're in this like really weird time where guys are, let me take the money right now. I'm not even thinking about who can develop me and who can get me to the next level. I'm just worried about cashing in now. And it's kind of the same concept as one and done in college basketball, which we're kind of seeing them schools go away from a little bit now. But I think that NIL just makes it so complicated. I love that Billy does seem to be doing exactly what you were saying, in that he's picking guys that fit his system, his scheme, and what he's looking for, less concerned about winning, a recruiting national title, and more concerned about building a team that's going to win on the field. And I do think that long term, that's where he's going to end up more successful.
It doesn't seem like he's getting over how we, the fans, get oversaturated with the stars, right? I mean, we get super focused on that, and it's like if it's not a 5-star, we don't want to talk about it. It happens all the time. The past video with Josiah Davis, everyone's like, we're getting this excited about a 3-star. It's like, look into the data. Yeah, we're getting this excited about a 3-star. It's not just like he's going to be a part of the team. You know what I mean? So Kyle Trask, 3-star, right? We talk about this all the time about stars on everything. Do they matter? Yes, to a certain extent. It definitely translates into the NFL and having a successful team, 100%. But yes, he's not out here to win a recruiting title by any stretch of the imagination.